Hi guys! I'm really excited for what I'm going to show you today. 651vinyl.com just came out with these acrylic bases and this lighted base to display them in. I've been seeing this in a lot of the Facebook groups and on Pinterest and the blogs, and I haven't tried it yet. I do have the Silhouette Cameo 4, which allows me to do the etching of the acrylic blanks. It's got that higher clearance that allow these to go through. So I'm really excited. They have come out with 5 shapes to start with. And our first shape is a round, as you can see, and the bases are cut out so that they can fit in the base. And they are covered in a clear plastic protector so that you peel that off and they're crystal clear underneath. I just have this paper so you can kind of see the shape. So we have the round, and then they have a saw blade, which is great for your workshop, or you know, a lot of people like to make wood signs. They cut their own wood, and might want to put this up there, or for Father's Day, or a man cave, or craft cave, whatever you want to have. And then they have the snow globe / gumball machine, so you could do that either way. And they have a nameplate, which I think is really cool. And then last but not least, and just in time for Valentine's Day, they have the double hearts. So you can see there's that double heart there. And then they also have the lighted acrylic base. And this is really cool because they cut their acrylics to fit their bases. So they're a perfect fit. And it comes with the base and a micro USB cord. It's got USB on the other end, so you can plug it into a USB port, or if you've got an old battery charger thing left over from a phone, and a remote. It's got batteries on the bottom. I've got batteries in mine. You can do that, or the cord. You can control it by pressing the little power button on here, or you can use the remote, and then you can kind of be more selective of your colors. And then your blank just fits down in there. And once you have your design etched on there, it will show with that light, and it's a really cool effect. You do have to have the Cameo 4 to be able to etch. These are thin enough to fit in the 4, but they do not fit in the 1, 2, or the 3, or the portrait. So I do have a little workaround I'm going to show you guys on how to use these if you don't have a machine that can etch. But we're going to start out with prepping these to be able to use in our software. So that right now they do not have SVG files to be able to get your layout. So what I've done is I have kind of created my own templates. So I just put it down on a piece of paper and traced around it. So you can see I've done these. And it's real easy. You don't have to be exact, and I'm going to show you why. But you just grab a piece of paper, grab your shape. Circle's the one I haven't done, and you're just going to trace around it. I'm using a pen instead of a Sharpie because I don't want to get any Sharpie or marker marks on the side of my acrylic. And it's going to be just a smidge bigger, but it doesn't matter because our design's not going to go all the way to the edge anyway. So just keep in mind that it's just a smidge bigger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this on the scanner bed of my printer and scan it into my computer. And then we're going to jump over to the computer, and I'm going to show you how to use these to size and place your design to get ready to etch. So let's head over to the computer, and we're going to work on a couple of these. Okay, so here we are in Silhouette Studio, and this is the design I want to etch onto the saw blade acrylic. And so, as I showed you before, I traced the acrylic piece onto a piece of paper, and then I scanned it in on my scanner and saved it on my computer as a PDF. So we're going to go here and drag this PDF into Silhouette Studio. And because it's a PDF, it comes in at actual size, and that's exactly what we want. So you could actually leave this here and then just design on top of it. Let's send this to the back. You could design right on top of it. You don't even need to trace it or anything, but I'm going to trace it just to make things a little easier. So I'm going to go over here and open up my trace menu, select trace area, draw a box, and trace. Again, we're not going to use it for anything. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. And I'm just going to delete that. So now we have this actual size saw blade here to design in. And to make my placement easier on my mat, what I'm going to do is line this up in the center of my mat. And then this bottom line here is on the 7-inch mark. So I know where to put my acrylic on my mat. And you can see we're just under 6 inches across. So we need this to be smaller to fit. So you can do a few things. If you could grab it by the corner, you can shrink it here, or we can go back to our transform and type in a width. Let's just turn on that lock that aspect ratio. I cannot speak. And make it 5. Let's pull it in here. So we're still too big. So I'm just going to drag it and shrink it. Going to get it on here where I want it. If you wanted to be exact in where your placement was, for some reason, you could use a picscan mat. It's got the registration marks built in to get it, but I'm pretty good at lining stuff up on my mat, so I'm just going to aim to get my acrylic piece in the same spot so that it'll etch right where we want it to. I'm going to select both of these and center, and then let's zoom in here. Okay, so to go size, I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. Again, select both and center, and there we go. So you could actually get rid of this. We don't need this anymore, but I'll leave it here for visual. I know there's a lot of visual people. So what we want to do now is the way the etch blade works, and I'm using the Chroma's blade tip, and I'll go into that when we go back to the machine, but it etches wherever there's cut lines. So even though this is color filled, this color is not going to etch. What it's going to look like when it's etched is just like that. And you could do that, but that's not the look that I'm going for. I want it to stand out more, to have more punch, to have some color and some depth to it. And we have 2 colors, and I kind of want to keep it with that 2-color system. So I'm going to ungroup. I have the 2 colors grouped together. Actually, let's go back to our colors so you can see a little better. Okay, so I'm going to ungroup. So now I have my orange is together and my black is together. And we are going to open up this line effects panel right here. And that's this one right above the rhinestones. I will mention that this tool set is limited to Designer Edition and above. So if you're running the basic edition, you're not going to have this option. I will put a link in the description of the video of some places you can get the Designer Edition upgrade. You can get it a lot cheaper elsewhere other than direct from Silhouette America. So I'll put those options down there. And also importing a PDF is also Designer Edition and above. You can import a JPEG file with Basic. The only issue is it might not come in at exactly the right size. So I just went ahead and used the PDF because you do have to have Designer Edition or above for these line effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of the colors. So we've got just the black here. And I'm going to click this button. So the second row, the one in the middle. I'm going to click on that. And you can kind of see it's a bunch of random hash marks, doesn't really look like anything. Make sure that your line color is turned on. You can make it any color you want. We're just going to go with black for now. What we want to do is we want to decrease the spacing. So as you see, every time I decrease the spacing, we get more and more lines. This is the actual spacing between each line. And we're going to go down to about 0.15. So now we can make out what it says. And we've got that. We've got the 2 different colors, so we're going to put a slightly different effect on the other color. I'm going to click on the orange. Again, I'm going to click on those cross hatch, and we're going to decrease again. Last time I went to 0.015. We're going to go a little lower this time. We're going to go to 0.005, and then I'm going to adjust the angle just a little bit so you can see that there's quite a difference. And you can play around with this. We'll go back to the other one. Let's see what happens when we decrease it a little more. So you can see it's still kind of two different colors. If we went down to the same, they're going to blend in. So we want to have different values in that spacing to signify the different colors of the design. And I like to do an edge effect. That's just me. You don't have to. You can see how it looks without one or with one. And these are all things that you can play around with. You know, these aren't going to look good with this design, but there are other options. And I mean, I just like to go through and play with the different options and see what looks good. So we're just going to go with the plain edge effect. And that just gives it kind of some definition when you've etched it. And if we zoom in here, you can see every one of these black lines is where this blade is going to etch into the acrylic. So we're just going to back out here, and that's really all we have to do. So we're going to go to the send panel. Again, I'm working with a Cameo 4 here, and it doesn't really matter what material you pick for action. We're going to sketch. And there are a lot of lines here, so it does sometimes take a minute for Silhouette to process it as a cut file because it has to kind of tell the system where all these lines are going to go. So sometimes it takes a minute. All right, so there we are. We have sketch, and then what we're going to do is we're going to turn our force all the way up. And your speed, I've found that it works good between like 10 and 15. These can take quite a while. The last one I did took about 20 minutes just for one pass. So we're going to turn our force up. I'm going to turn the speed up. I'm not going to go that high. Let's go to 15. And I'm going to do more than one pass. So I'm going to set it for 2 passes. And then before you unload your mat, we're going to check it, and I'll show you that when we do it. But as long as you don't unload your mat from the machine, you can send it through again if it's not prominent enough. So we're going to start with 2 passes, and then we'll go from there. Oh, and I do want to remove the saw blade. I'm just going to stick it off to the side. We don't need that right now. Let's go back here. It's going to have to process again because I changed something. We're still set on sketch. We're still set on 33 force. And 15 for speed. So while this works, let's hop over to the machine and I'll show you how we kind of load it up and get it ready. Okay, so we've got our mat, and I'm using a strong grip mat, and I'll put a link to this below. I would have got out a brand new one that wasn't so ugly for you guys, but this is the only one that I have right now. And we are going to do the saw blade. And so the first thing we want to do is peel off the clear plastic layer on one side. Don't do it on the other side. So we're just going to peel that off. And be careful if you're using tweezers or your pen. You don't want to scratch it. I really try to get it off with my fingers. And it's a lot easier to get off than the paper that's on some acrylics. But if you just use your fingers, you're less likely to scratch it up. And so I had it set up so that the base of this was on the 7-inch line and it was centered. So I'm just going to be real technical here and eyeball it. And if we're off a millimeter or something, it's really not going to be that noticeable. So we're going to get that down. And it is a strong grip mat, but it's also not a brand new mat. And, you know, once you if you mess up an acrylic, it's kind of messed up. There's no undoing it. So I'm going to tape it down. You can use washi tape or something. I'm using the tape that comes with the foil quill because it works really well and doesn't gunk up my mat. Some washi tapes and stuff are stickier than others, and they can gunk up the mat pretty good. And I'm just going to tape down these edges. It's not going to etch kind of where you have the tape. So you want to make sure that you're not taping over a section that's going to get etched. And you can reuse this tape. So if you're doing a couple of these back to back, I just peel the tape off and stick it on my desk and then use it again for the next one. And you're better off using more tape and it not shifting than being stingy with the tape and it shifting. So just want to get it taped down. Plus the mats are a little flexible and you don't want it to pop up off the mat as it's bending. And so I am using the Chromis etch blade, and they have a couple different ones. I'm using their standard one. They have a 5-point one that's good for metal and things, but really not acrylic. So I'm using the medium. I have acrylic all over it. And I'm using, because I'm using the Cameo 4, I'm using the blue adapter. The blue adapter is for your third-party tools. So your foil quill, your pen holders, your markers and things like that. And what I've done is I have taken a piece of electrical tape, because it's really not, it doesn't grip it like the older machines grip it. So when you get pressure, it kind of pops up. So what I have done is I've just taken a piece of electrical tape and put it over the top and taped it down. And this just keeps it from popping up. I don't know if they're going to come out with a blade that fits in here better without coming up. I don't know. But I've done some tests with it like this, and this seems to work really well. And so that's just what I'm going to do. I don't mind a little hack to get this to work. And you're going to use this in tool holder 1. So we're just going to push that in there, and then you want to make sure that you lock your blade in all the way. And we're going to load our mat. We're going to go back over to the computer and send it to the machine. Okay, so we're back here, and we've just made sure that I've got the right Cameo connected. We've got it set on sketch with our force turned all the way up, our speed at about 15. I wouldn't really go any higher than 15, but you can definitely try it. And I've got the passes set for 2. I've done one with 2 passes. I've done it with 3 passes. I really liked the 3 passes better, but we're going to check and see how it looks after 2 passes. So now we are going to send to the Cameo. Okay, so we finished etching, and you can just kind of brush off the etching. I use some canned air to blow it off when I'm done at the machine. But do not unload your mat from your Cameo until you're sure that your etching is deep enough for you. So I'm just going to kind of brush it away and check and make sure that everything looks good. And I think it does. I don't think we need another pass. But if it wasn't bold enough for you, you could just go back and send it through for one more pass. As long as you've not unloaded your mat, everything's going to be lined up right where it needs to be. So I'm going to unload, and we are going to, let's do this out a little bit. We're going to take this off the mat. And again, you can save these. I don't save them for days, but if I'm going to be cutting another one, I'll just, like I said, stick them on the table. I think it's about $6 for a 3. So it's really not much more expensive, or maybe even the same price as regular washi tape. There is a link in the description below the video for this tape, but I like it because it just doesn't, stick to the mat real bad. I'm going to peel this off. And again, you can see maybe our etching. So I'm going to go wash this, and then we'll come back and check it out. Okay, so I've washed it and got all the dust off of it. It still has the protective plastic on the back, so it's not completely crystal clear, but you can definitely see the etching. And so when you're ready to use it, you'll just flip it over. And again, I recommend using your fingernail, or just if you're using a tool, be very careful because you don't want to scratch the base. Start at the bottom, the base that sits in here, so if you do get a scratch on it, it's not going to be obvious. And then we're just going to pop it in here, and let's turn it on. And you should be able to see it. And then you can see the design right there through it as it's lit up. And again, this has some different functions. We can flash through the colors. Let me turn my light off, see if it makes it a little more obvious. They have a strobe. And then there's a fade, which kind of fades between the different colors. And then smooth. But again, you've got 15 individual colors that you can set this, plus white, so that would be 16. So that is etching the acrylic, and again, you can just power it off. You can also use the button on top to cycle through, and then you just hold it and it turns it off. And again, batteries or the cable. So that's etching with the Cameo 4. If you don't have a Cameo 4, so you can't fit anything in here, in your 1, 2, or 3, it won't fit under the rollers, or you don't have the etching blade to do that, you can also use etched vinyl. And so here I have some of the etched vinyl from 651vinyl.com, and I've used this on glass on cabinets to kind of hide what's behind the cabinets, on the side lights by the front door as well, so that you can kind of see what's going on outside without people being able to make out what's inside. But you can use this on here as well, and glass and mirrors and things like that that you want to have that etched look but not permanent. Let's turn the light back on. And so we're going to etch one so that you can see the look that you get with this etched vinyl, which allows you to use these acrylic blanks, use the really cool light up base if you don't have the equipment necessary to etch the acrylic. So we're going to hop back over to the Silhouette Studio and work on that. Okay, so now we're going to do one with the etched vinyl that I showed you just a minute ago. And I want to put this design onto the circle. So I have, again, scanned in my drawing that I did. And it'll drop in here. And again, you can trace it if you want to. I don't need any kind of placement with this one because I'm just cutting it out of vinyl and sticking it on. So I'm going to send this to the back. And I'm just going to design right on top of it. And so I'm going to drag this in, kind of make sure I got the size that I want. You can do it a little bigger, a little smaller. Let's go a little bigger. Apologize for that noise. I've got a whiny dog who wants my attention. So we're just going to put that right there. That's the size that I want. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to stick this up here, and then I'm just going to draw a box. I always draw a box around what I'm cutting. I just think that it helps with weeding. If I have that box around there, and then trimming the vinyl down as well. I just have a little bit, and then I send it back. Let's just make that translucent, and I just want those red lines to make sure they're not crossing over. Stick that in the corner, and then we'll go to our send panel. Make sure everything's set to cut. We are going to be cutting vinyl glossy is the setting that I use. And let's go load up the Cameo, and then we will cut. Okay, so I have a light grip mat. I really like the light grip for the paper-backed vinyls because it doesn't curl the vinyl as much when you remove it or rip the paper. If you've had ever had a new mat and you put paper or paper-backed vinyl on it, and it just rips it right up. So I'm just going to lay this down on my mat. Move it down. Load it up. All right, so let's unload. And another way to help prevent curling of your vinyl when you take it off the mat is to flip it over and peel the mat off your vinyl. That just helps keep your material from curling. I really like the light grip. And I will put a link for this down below as well. Everything I've used in the video will be linked in the description. From the acrylic blanks and the lighted base to the machine, the etching blade we used earlier, and all of that stuff. So it's really hard to see what you're doing with this etched vinyl when it's cut. And I usually like to do this in front of my computer so I can see what I'm weeding. But we're just going to hope for the best here. Let me cut this piece out and then you can see, hopefully, what it looks like. You'll definitely be able to see it on the acrylic. So if I catch it in the light, right, you can see it. So I'm going to use the medium tack transfer tape or application tape from 651 vinyl. This is the best ever. The last time I used it, I apparently had a piece left over. I just stick it back on the roll so that I can use it next time if I had to cut a piece off. So I'm just going to use this piece and I'm going to lay it down. Of course, I forgot my squeegee. I keep these all over my craft room, but I never seem to have one when I need it. These are also from 651 vinyl. I buy like 5 or 6 of them at a time. Just tack them onto order. It's great if you're not quite to the $50 free shipping threshold to toss a couple of these on there. You'll always need them. I'm going to smooth that down. I'm going to trim up this piece here. If you do a lot of cutting and use scissors a lot, these scissors are amazing. I've had these for about 12 years. They're now white and orange. It's the same scissor, but they open automatically. So I'll put a link to this too. But these scissors are amazing if you're spending all day cutting. You don't get that hand fatigue, and then they lock closed. And of course they're Fiskars, so they guarantee if they lose their sharpness, you can send them in and they'll sharpen them for you, but I've never had to do that. Okay, and we are going to put this on the round acrylic. Let me put this green paper under me again so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And so again, we've got to remove that clear plastic. So you can see a difference with the clear plastic on and with the clear plastic off. So don't freak out when you get it and you're like, oh no, it's all scratched up. That's there to protect it so it doesn't get all scratched up. Again, don't use anything super sharp to get it off. Just use my fingernails. If you need to use tweezers or a pen or something, do it down here on this notch that sits into the base so that it won't be an obvious scratch. And then I always leave the other side still attached until I'm done with it. And that just keeps it from getting scratched up from sliding it around. Okay, so I want to get it on here. I want it to be center and level, and I'm kind of using this line as a guideline for this line. You could get out a ruler if you wanted to. Just going to kind of eyeball it. So I have it where I want it, and I don't want it to move. I'm going to reuse some of this tape right here. We're going to do my favorite. It's called the Hinge Method. This works really well to help keep bubbles out too. So I'm just going to tape this down. Not quite centered, kind of off to the center. And I'm going to smooth this down. I'm going to peel this back. And it's a little tricky to get on the app tape just because of the texture of the vinyl, but it does transfer. If it's not, just kind of rub it again. Go slow in case it misses a piece. It's just the nature of the etch. And this etched also comes in think pink, blue, and yellow. So it'll be really cool for like a baby's room or something. I'm just going to cut off half of this right here to expose this underneath. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around because I'm right-handed. I'm going to take my squeegee, and you can see, oh no, well that didn't work. Usually I hold it up and then squeegee it down, but we're just going to have to work with it because I dropped it. And luckily it fell flat. So I'll show you on the other side. That was luck. Worst case, I could have just printed a new piece or cut a new piece. Worst case, I could have just cut a new piece. So now we can pull this off because that was just our hinge. And I can save that. It doesn't feel very sticky, but it's pretty sticky. And again, we want to pull back on this side. Again, make sure all your pieces stay behind. A little spot doesn't want to stick. And this etch, you can use this as in full sheets. Like I said, I did the doors to a couple cabinets. My next project is going to be my entertainment center. It just kind of hides what's behind it. Okay, so let's try this again without dropping it. So I hold this up, and then I take my squeegee and press it down. So I don't want the whole thing to go down at once, like what happened before, because you get bubbles. And hopefully I don't have any bubbles. Like I said, I could just cut a new piece if I need to. But this etched vinyl does kind of show bubbles pretty bad, so you got to be careful. If you're using big pieces, I recommend doing the wet method, which is what I did on my cabinet doors. And then we're going to peel this off. And as I always say, when you peel off your app tape, don't pull straight up. You don't want to pull it straight up because that can pull your vinyl up with it. You want to fold it back. So fold it all the way back on itself and then just slide it off. You see how I'm doing that? Just slide it off. Just going to kind of lay this down so I don't scratch it. Smooth it down a little more. I lost the dot in my eye somewhere. So I'll cut a new dot. I wonder if it left it. Oh, it's still on the backing. I found my dot. Stick that on there. Perfect. Would have been easy enough to cut a new one, but we got it. And so now that it's done, we're going to flip it over and remove the protective plastic from the other side. And I don't know if you can see that glittery finish of the vinyl. It's really glittery. But if you look, I mean, they look very similar. Of course, the etched one's a little darker because it's etched into the acrylic. But this could be really cool in the different colors. So then we're going to put it on the base. And that's really awesome. Check it out. Looks really cool. So that's it. That's 2 different ways that you can decorate your acrylic blanks from 651 vinyl. Again, we did the etching with the Chromis blade and the Cameo 4. And then if you don't have a Cameo 4, you don't have an etching blade, you can also use the etched vinyl. Came out really cool. And I'm going to show you guys what these look like in the dark. It looks really cool. So check that out at the end of the video. Again, links to everything I used is going to be down below in the description. If I left something out or you have a question, please leave a comment. Thumbs up if you appreciated it. If you want to see more of my videos, I would love it if you would subscribe. And that's it. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.